Hello, Butler 1199. My name is Dan, and I'm the delegate from BH Call Intake. And it is Wednesday, June 25th. Wednesday, June 25th, and we had another open bargaining session. Um, and although I'm sure many of you were there because we had like over 300 people there, uh, I'm going to go over what I thought about it. And yeah. So once again, this is not a replacement for going to bargaining, talking to your delegates, and this is not an official 1190 communication because this is just my thoughts and opinions. So where to start? Um, Obviously, the big news is that we won unemployment, and this has already affected bargaining more than I thought it would. I thought they would have played a little bit tougher, to be honest, because they didn't want to seem like they were very affected by it. But I had to say, probably one of the most productive bargaining sessions. And I know a lot of you, the members who were there, going productive. We were sitting around for hours and hours. Well, yeah, now bargaining is sitting around for hours and hours, but we were sitting around for hours and hours and actually getting things done occasionally, which is different than what has been happening, which is sitting around for hours and hours and hours and nothing happening. So yeah. Um, So Dan, what's so productive about today? They were finally for the first time actually willing to talk about healthcare and what they might be willing to do and some other options, So so we were like, okay, we understand that you want people off the HSA because the front load is a lot of money at the front of the year. Well, what about trying to incentivize people off the HSA? What would that look like? And so they went back and talked to whoever, and yeah, that was last week, right? They talked about that. And so they came back and they showed us what the option they put together was, which is that they took their HMO plan, made the premiums significantly cheaper, um, and dropped the maximums, right? The out-of-pocket maximums for the year. They dropped that down a bit. And in my opinion, yeah, yeah. It looks good. The premiums are low. I'd say it'd be like a good plan for the 20-year-olds, right? Because realistically, right, you're going to pay 1,600 a year on the for the HSA, right? That's how much you pay at they front load it and then they take that bit out of your paycheck every paycheck. Um, it's not a premium. You're paying them back for front loading your portion of the HSA, which is around $1,600. So at the end of the year, you'll have spent $1,600 because that's how much you put into the HSA. The HMO plan, it was like for if you were a full-time single member, like you don't have a family that you're putting this on, it was free. You'd have zero premiums. If you are full-time with family, it was $10 a paycheck. Um, and if you were part-time with a family, which would be the most expensive, it was like $30 a paycheck. Yeah, which is all significantly down from where that HMO plan was, the New England plan. And I don't know, I look at that and I go, yeah, okay. I think that if you're like a 20-year-old, if you're in your 20s or early 30s, you have no kids or whatever, right? The HSA, like you're barely using it to begin with. You go to a traditional HMO, you're going to end up paying like 305 to $500 a year if nothing happens, right? Let's say if nothing happens, if you get hit by a bus and sent to the hospital, you might have some, you might end up going paying more. But they went through some of the things like even if you're a diabetic or whatever, you're going to pay for all your routine stuff. You're technically actually going to pay less than the HSA, but it doesn't have the flexibility that the HSA has. It's for their Blue Cross providers within New England. Um, yeah, overall, the sentiment of the bargaining committee was meh, it's fine, but it's not really it's not really astounding anybody. Um, so, you know, so we gave that back to them. We also pressed them like, hey, we need a response on like uh on the past practices that you wanted to get rid of that we turned into a proposal, that either don't represent money or represent tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of money, like just that much. Um, it's like the 7-minute rule, returning back to your position after an extended leave, uh, dietary, food, housekeeping, vacations, right? Um, and we gave them a proposal. So they had actually bargained against themselves a little bit. And so we gave them back a proposal. Um, and the membership voted to reduce the cost sharing ratio of the HSA to 50-50. This is actually in line with women and infants. Women and infants also pays 50-50 for their HSA. Um, and so after a discussion, question and answerings, that's what the membership voted for being willing to do. Now, that is part of an overall package proposal, and we gave them that proposal. And if they don't accept that proposal, we reserve the right to go backward to a previous position, um, just like they had done when they gave their last best and final, which they still have not actually caught up to in the amount of money that they're putting on the table. So we put that out there. We said this is the deal, and if you sign the deal, we go back to work. Um, I mean, well, the offer was if they signed the deal today at bargaining, we'd go back to work Sunday. If they signed the deal tomorrow, we'd have to talk about it. Maybe Monday. I don't know. But yeah. So that proposal's on the table, and they got it back, and they're apparently pretty mopey. They're apparently pretty mopey about the fact that we won unemployment. And yeah, so uh, I think Jesse put it best when he said that they're kind of looking for a way to settle this with grace, right? They're very preoccupied with their posture, with their presentation. That's what matters the most to them. I know that it should, because they act like it should be money, but they've made a lot of bad business decisions and spent a lot of money, right? If they were only concerned about the money, we wouldn't have gone on strike. They would have gotten to a deal, and we would have signed a deal. We would not have gone on strike. But it's the money is important, sure. But for them, what is ultra, ultra important is the way they look and the power they have, right? They still want some stupid crap to have power over you, right? The 7-minute rule. I mean, just the attack on the 7-minute rule, and they're still trying to say no to the 7-minute rule, is entirely about giving them the option to pick and choose who to discipline, and we pointed out some of the silly things about the 7-minute rule, like, there's some departments like my department, where people like, when we are changing out our shifts, some people actually have to stand there and wait to get on to a station right before they can start working, right? So like we don't have a time clock in call center, right? We either have to go to the nurses lounge or we clock in and out on our workstations. It's just this and they were like, and of course Scott didn't was like, oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, well, you don't think about anything. You just say no to everyone and everything. That's your job. But you know, and you look at it and you look at the fact they still want to keep you can't bid out of your position if you have had a discipline within the last year, right? So it's like This is not about money. This is about control. You want to take control away from us. You want to take control over our lives away from us, over our work away from us. You just want to hold us and do whatever you want, right? It's about taking power away from the union, taking it away from you, the membership, and giving it back to them and their managers. That has nothing to do with money, right? And so they're still stuck on that. But it's about leveraging now those two things, right? Their love of money against their desire for power and seeing which one will win out at the end. Because I think in the end, the board cares more about money. Mary Marin cares a lot about power, and I think she's had a little too much leeway to run this situation. But I think at some point someone's gonna say, "Why are you spending all of my money?" And yeah. Um, so, we're not quite there, but for the first day in the entire time that I've been in the bargaining committee, I would say we're actually getting some work done. They're now willing to talk about things that they wouldn't have talked about before. Things that when we asked, what about this? What about this? They would go, well, no, we just want what we put down. We want to get rid of the HSA. We don't really want to hear about it. So now all of a sudden they're willing to talk. They're willing to make some movement. And the mediator is also pushing them on some of that stuff, which is nice compared to the last ones who didn't really push them on anything. They were just sort of like, it's not really our place. This guy seems to be more like, hey, let's get this done. So that's a nice thing to see. But overall, that's pretty much it. Um, it was a lot of back and forth, obviously. It was a lot of sidebarring that we were doing. They don't want to come into the room with all of us there, which, whatever. Some people feel certain ways about this. For me, it's like, I don't need to see that. We don't need to see them. They don't make decisions to begin with. Their attitudes are so unprofessional and so just disrespectful. It's like I just don't want to bother with them. They're not worth our time, quite frankly. I'd rather just keep sending the sidebar delegations out, which they're more comfortable with anyway, and allows them to feel like they can make progress without, whatever. Um, but yeah, overall, I'm feeling pretty good after today. It's hot. It's gonna be hot, but yeah. And tomorrow we've got some extra special plans out on the picket line. But show up for your regular shifts. Just there might be some special duties for you. And going forward, um, there was the people should have gotten the text today from Murph, well, from Robo Murph. Uh, but we, I guess, are in talks with the Council of Rabbis and some other spiritual groups about members who would rather be doing volunteer work instead of being on the picket line, which we thought was a really cool idea. So what we're proposing is they're going to work out what specifically they would like, what things they want us to do, or opportunities that we have for volunteer work. And volunteer work counts as shifts on the picket line. So you can continue doing your shifts, but if you just felt like your time would be better spent, I don't know, feeding homeless people or, caring for people, the thing we do for a job, right? Then, more power to you. Go out there and get it done. So that's pretty much it I have for today. Um, I'm just gonna keep it short. It's the summertime. I'd like to go do stuff too. No, just kidding. I'm just gonna play video games. But yeah, I think although it's content-wise a very short amount of update to give, realistically it represents a very clear and obvious tide that is turning in the bargaining table. which is precipitated by the tide that is turning within that hospital, which is that they are losing. And they are starting to first, for the first time ever, realize that they are losing, right? Because unlike us, who can sort of dissect the situation and understand what is happening in reality, um, I think Mary Marin especially will just wants to sort of determine reality for herself. That she would like to say, like, no, actually, I'm going to break the union any day. Any day I can break the union. It's going to happen. It's not. That's not real. That is a fabrication of your mind that you are clinging to in a hopeless attempt to break our unity, which is not broken, not going to break. No one has crossed in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks or something like that. Um, and apparently they have so few of our scabs in there who are not allowed to work with the temporary workers from Huffmaster, that they actually can't they can't like run a unit because there's too few of them. So like that's really funny. Apparently they're just sitting around all day. I'm sure maybe doing like busy work or something. But yeah, um, we're just gonna keep staying strong. I don't really need to even say it to you guys. You guys have this locked. You guys have this all locked down. You don't need me anymore. I don't even know why I do these videos. You guys are rock stars. You've won this fight, and you did it through your own strength, through your own unity, your own ability to stick shoulder to shoulder, and we just have to keep doing that and enjoy unemployment, enjoy the not rainy weather at the very least, even if it's hot, and yeah, hopefully we'll get this done soon.